at 10:30 a.m. PT. So we've got a whole bunch of AWS amazing networking stuff to talk about here. I'm one of the hosts, Matt Lewis, and I've got another host, James Wenzel. You'll always see us two kind of hosting a bunch of these shows. We love doing this stuff. So love talking about AWS networking. Been in the industry for a bunch of time, and we're always digging into new AWS networking things. So we've got an interesting show here today. We've got automating network monitoring and alerting on AWS. And we want to talk about the AWS Solutions Library. We're actually going to do it in the reverse order. We're going to dive into the Solutions Library and then dive into automating network monitoring and alerting. But we've got some amazing guests here today. So we've got Lewis, Zoran, Daniel. You guys want to say hi? Maybe give yourselves a bit of an intro. You can start with Lewis in the middle there.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you, Matt, for having us. Luis Guirigay here. I've been with AWS a couple of years, actually just 2 years, 3-4 days ago. And my role is I'm the head of AWS Solutions for compute, storage, and networking. So, one of the reasons why I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Lewis. Daniel, how about you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Zilberman. I'm a senior solution architect with AWS Solutions team, working very closely with Lewis and wonderful builders like Zoran to work backwards from customer use cases and build and publish solutions like the one we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. And Zoran, how about you, man? Where are you coming at us from as well? I think we're all spread all over the world today.
Yeah. So, hi, everybody. My name is Zoran Pukar. I'm a Principal Technical Account Manager based off Sweden. So it's a little bit late today, but this is an opportunity to meet everybody and talk about the automation. So I've been in AWS for about 5 years and then some, 25 years in this industry, something like that. And working as a technical account manager with enterprise support. Okay,
so we've got Sweden. Zoran, you're in Sweden. Daniel, I think you're in San Francisco, right?
That's right. San Francisco,
so we've got two San Francisco folks. I'm in SF as well. Jamie, you're out in Buffalo. Lewis, where are you coming at us from today?
I'm originally based out of Miami, but I'm live from Argentina, from Buenos Aires.
Awesome. Wow, very cool. All right, so we've got a bunch of time zones covered today. Very cool. All right, so looks like we've got Dominic and Ken. Hey guys, how you doing? Good to see you again. And Hitherings. So just like always, ask any questions in the chat. We don't talk about any roadmap or NDA stuff, but you can obviously ask your account teams to reach out to us individually, and we're happy to have those conversations. But yeah, let's without further ado, let's get in here. So Lewis, how about let's start with a bit of an overview on the AWS Solutions Library. I was actually new to the Solutions Library. I had no idea that it existed, and when you folks started showing me, I was like, oh wow, this is like what I want to be sending our customers, because there's some really awesome stuff in there. But you dig in and let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the AWS Solutions organization actually started within AWS, I would say 4 years ago. And, we started with what's called AWS Industry. So we started developing ready to use, ready to deploy solutions for specific industries like FSI, healthcare, and so on. And then the customer signal kept asking for like, hey, what about if we create solutions for technology areas, like solutions for networking or solutions for compute? And this is where AWS Solutions for Technology, came about. And in the last 4 years, we have over like maybe 2 million deployments of all these solutions that we currently develop. And everything we build is actually in what we call the AWS Solutions Library. So it's aws.amazon.com/solutions. If you go there, regardless of the industry, regardless of the type of technology you're looking for, you will find quite a few really cool solutions. In fact, you guys okay if I share a couple of slides to kind of get you in the mood?
Yeah, let's do it. Hold on, you said there's been 2 million deployments. What constitutes a deployment? Like, is that someone clicking on the site and deploying something from the solution?
Yeah, so one of the things about AWS Solutions is that they are single tenant piece of software, right? Think about AWS Solutions as a product that AWS customers can go and deploy in their accounts. You might have 10 accounts and you might deploy a solution just in one of them because that's what you need. But you may be another customer that, hey, I have X number of accounts, and I want to deploy my solution in different accounts because of department, region, separation of business, stuff like that, you can do that as well. But AWS solutions are basically products that you deploy as a customer in your account. When there is a new release, when there is a new version of the solution, you can go ahead and upgrade, because again, at that point, given that they are single tenant, you as a customer are responsible for keeping on the latest version. And the moment that you no longer need it because you solved the problem, that's it. You can go and remove it, and that's it. No more. Pretty simple.
So I remember, so way back in the day, we used to have a program called Test Drive, and I didn't know about this because I was working on this, and we're working with partners like F5 and Checkpoint and a whole bunch of others. And what you would basically do is you click a button on the AWS website, it would take you to an account where you would then play around with a partner's equipment, and you had like a timer. You had like 12 hours to play around with it. Then everything would get deleted and disappear. I think the feedback that we got from that was customers loved the fact that they could play around with, say, partner solutions, for example, but they really didn't like that it disappeared. They're like, hold on, like, I want this to be permanent in my account. Is that what happens with the solutions library? Are you using your own account to deploy?
Yeah, with AWS Solutions, we actually produce two types of solutions. And, one is what we call AWS Solutions. And again, sorry for the naming and the branding. Sometimes might be a bit confusing, but AWS Solutions, we have about 60 plus officially supported AWS solutions. And those solutions are actually developed by software development engineers. And they go through the same guidelines and processes and AppSec and review, pretty much like AWS services do, right? Those are production ready. You deploy it in your account and you can move it into production 5 minutes later. Pretty much everything we do is either CDK or CloudFormation. We might have a few on Terraform, but again, nothing to build. Everything you just click, deploy. We give you the code. AWS solutions are 100% open source. So if you find a solution that maybe that's 90% of what you need, hey, be my guest. Go extend it, make it your own, and keep it deployed for as long as you want.
Hey, Luis, what is the criteria for having a solution added to the library? Like, what's the process of going through saying, you know what, we need to put this in here because folks need to be able to use this? What do you use to filter that out?
Absolutely. So again, I was saying that we have two types of solutions. We have the AWS solution, which is the one I just told you about, fully supported. And then we have the other type of solution that's called solution guidance, or you could say mini solutions. Solution guidance are not officially supported by AWS support like the other ones. However, it's a best effort type of a scenario because everything goes into the solutions library. Now, to answer your question, Jamie, for an AWS solution, right, to go into the library, we need very strong customer signal, right? And based on the customer signal, based on the type of problem we're looking at solving, we might go the AWS solution supported route, which to me, what it means is I have to write a PRFAQ. And for those in the audience that do not know what that is, it's a very deep process into understanding that what the customers need and whether we're building the right thing. That's kind of a really quick summary, but it's an amazing process to fully understand the problem and the customers and the customer need. So I have to go through that so I can actually allocate software development engineers to build that, because AWS solutions are a multi-year roadmap, right? So we keep working on them, and based on the solution, we can keep developing new features for 2-3 years and longer, right? For that, because of that process, we try to qualify, deeply what we really want as a solution. So that process could be a few months. Now, the other type of solution, which is solutions guidance, for example, I was talking to another SA out of UK, and he came to me and he said, hey, Luis, we have this need in networking, right? It would be amazing if we can build a solution for that. So we start working, we kind of started the first stages of the PRFAQ. And then a couple of weeks later, Zoran showed up. I don't know, Zoran, if he found you or you found him, something happened, but this other SA, Andy, he comes to me, he's like, hey, Luis, I found an amazing piece of code that we could productize, right? So, and this is where we met with, internal stakeholders. Zoran had really strong customer signal, and we were able to convert that particular idea that Zoran had, plus, of course, some asset. We were able to productize it into a solution guidance, within probably like, 6 weeks, something like that. And again, assuming that, proper customer signal, strong support from networking stakeholders, there you go. It was probably no more than 2 months to get it live in the Solutions Library.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, we're no strangers. Matt and I are no strangers to the PRFAQ process. It's a lot of in-depth research, detail, asking the questions from a customer perspective. You're right. It is pretty in-depth. So going through that process for the Solutions Library, that should give a lot of people a lot of confidence.
It should. It absolutely should.
I wish we would publish the PR facts for services when we launch them and just make them public. So for folks that aren't familiar, I know most of you folks are, but some aren't. But whenever we build a service in AWS, we use a PR fac or press release frequently asked questions. And that's the first doc you generally make and say, hey, the press release is the first thing you kind of write. Like this is the vision, the goal, the lighthouse for this service. So it really keeps us on track throughout the whole development process. So Lewis, you were going to dig in and show us some. You're going to share your screen here and show us some solution library stuff. Let's do that.
Absolutely. And actually, before I kind of show you the AWS Solutions Library, I kind of like to tell this very short story of why solutions. So let me share the screen. Hopefully, this is going to be right here.
So while you're doing that, maybe a question for Daniel and Zoran. Do you guys think, Dominic would mention Gen AI in the chat here, do you think we could use Gen AI in the future to build new solutions libraries, like have a prompt and say, I want a solution that has a egress security VPC and uses this vendor or these VPCs? Do you think that's possible? You can say no.
You shall ask, but whether you shall receive, that's that's TBD, right? Because otherwise we'll work ourselves out of our jobs, essentially, right?
I'm okay with that. I'd like to not work anymore.
Yeah.
I guess I need money, but
we actually have a solution that you can use to build other Gen AI applications. It's already live.
That's right. It's called Generative Application Builder. Yep.
Okay.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right, let's oops, I think we're both clicking. Oh, Lewis, do you want to make your screen just a little squashed down so we can read it a little bit more?
Yeah, I actually went full presentation mode. I don't know why it's doing that, because I'm using a second monitor right now.
Okay.
So let me stop sharing and do that little trick you showed me the other day. And this is gonna take me like 5 seconds. Sorry about that.
And Matt, I won't add any slides or anything to the screen. Just so at least one of us is controlling, so we don't have that issue.
No, that's fine. You can do it. So it's normally
I don't want to work either. So you go ahead and
we're both like clicking the add and remove button at the same time. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I'm gonna coast on this one. I've done quite a few of these shows recently, so you can be the wizard behind the curtain.
I'm the designated slide clicker, am I today?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Put you to work.
So we're in the chat here. There's a couple of good questions about reInvent content. So Dominic's saying he'd love to see more repeat sessions for workshops, Net 306 and Net 307. Yeah, look, we'll pass on this feedback to the track owners for networking for sure. Like this is really good feedback. I think the question on the number of sessions we get is a big question mark every year, right? And I feel like every year they're cutting down the number of sessions we get, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll pass on those requests. So any others that you feel that are really great and you'd like to see more repeats, put them in there, because we'll let the track owners know. All right, Lewis, back to you.
Yeah, there you go. So again, I like to tell this story because some people say like, hey, why AWS Solutions now? And what happened is that, I've been consulting for about 20 plus years before I came to AWS. And one thing I kind of found out over all these years is that if you think about it, customers, they do not buy technology. And kind of let me tell you why, right? And this is kind of the story about it. Let's say that you just bought a house, right? What is one of the biggest problems you have after you buy a house? You don't have any more money left, probably, because you either did a big down payment or, if you pay cash, well, you have even more money. But the point is that you are house poor, right? You have to limit your expenses at that point. And then the other problem you might have in the new house is that, hey, I have a massive living room with a lot of light that in the old TV I had no longer fits, right? So now you have two problems. You have a problem that, hey, you want to save more as much money as you can, and you have a problem that whatever TV you buy, it gotta work in your living room. So let's say you go to the electronic store, right? And then you see these two TVs. The one on the left says, hey, this TV got 4,000 nits and it consumed 50 watts in standby mode. And you're like, oh, okay, great. But then you look at the second TV, the one on the right, and that one says, hey, it's great for bright rooms and it's powered by 4,000 nits and it's the lowest energy consumption ever. So from the customer point of view, you just don't need a TV. You need a TV that solves your problem, right? So in this particular point, now you are solving a performance problem by going with the one that, hey, you know for a fact is going to solve your bright room issue. And then you go also for the one that you know that it's going to be cheap in the long term. So the point is that customers, they do not buy technology. They buy solutions to the problems. So what we're trying to do with AWS Solutions is bring those solutions that are ready to solve a particular problem in your organization. Many of our solutions, as you will see, via Zoran and Daniel, many of our solutions are actually multiple services stitched together, right? It's not a single service that solves the problem for you. So if you are the type of customer that likes to build everything from scratch, hey, keep doing it. If you're having fun, go for it. But if you are the type of customer that, hey, maybe I need something that's ready, because I don't have the manpower or the resources. So that's our approach. We give you everything you need. You can go deploy. Again, 90, 80%, 100%, a success rate. You can still go and make the modifications you need. So that's why the AWS Solutions org was created, to make sure that we provide those solutions that solve those bigger problems without customers having to spend much time working on it. Everything we build goes in the solutions library. We have over 60 AWS solutions that, as I said, fully AWS supported. And we have over 400 guidance, like the one that Zoran is going to talk about. We also work with partners in AWS services, and we try to kind of qualify what are some of the best partner solutions for very specific use cases. And as you see, we have over 780 use cases: fraud detection, network automation, performance and cost optimization across all these 40 plus domains. That based on what you're trying to solve, I invite everybody just to, hey, go there first before you try to write the first line of code. Just go there, do some browsing, and maybe you will find something that's already built that you can go ahead and use. I'm not gonna go through solutions, but as I said, we have over 2 million deployments, in the last 3-4 years, and this is only the 60 plus solutions we're talking about. I'm not even counting the ones with the ones that are solutions guidance. This is just the 60 plus solutions I'm talking about. We have one of the solutions in our portfolio. In my specific portfolio is network orchestration for AWS Transit Gateway. I'm not gonna spend any time on it. You guys will be able to go and Google it. The link is below. If I don't know, at some point I can put the link so people can start clicking on it when they have time. Now, this is a solution that's pretty cool. This is a solution that helps organizations to do performance testing. With this particular solution, you can do load testing, stress testing, spike, scalability testing. And it's a solution that helps you automate and organize all these performance type of tests, but it also gives you all the computational power for you to run the actual simulation. So let's say that you want to run a simulation with 500,000 users, each particular user doing this many transactions. You could use this solution for that. And I'm aware of a couple of essays that are actually using this to do a performance test to networking environments, for example. This is another solution that, by the way, we're going to talk about this particular solution that you see on the screen and this one as well. We're actually going to do a builder session at re:Invent. So, hey, if you want to know more and you're going to re:Invent, now you know where you need to go. So this is another solution which is pretty cool. And think about it this way. So I have an environment. Let's say that I have an e-commerce website, right? And I'm expecting that on this particular day, let's say Black Friday in the US, I'm going to go from a regular workload from 1 million users to probably 25 millions because whatever, special promotion, whatever. Now, usually the right answer is scalability, right? I can auto-scale up and down based on my workloads. But for some organizations, maybe auto-scaling give you an answer up to a point. But after that particular point, now you have to depend on third-party systems and stuff like that. Let's say the credit card transaction company that they might not be able to scale, but because it's not something you control, that company might want to tell you, hey, I can support this many million. Anything after that, we cannot. So with this particular solution, you can literally implement a virtual waiting room. So as people come in the site, the moment you hit that kind of performance degradation or breaking point, you can make this solution to actually, have the people waiting in that virtual waiting room. And as customers complete the transaction on the actual production, let's say commerce site, as they leave, the solution lets people in. So it's something that you can automate. And think about, companies that sell tickets for concerts, or think about companies that sell a particular product that is very hard to find. And when they have this kind of new availability of items, they don't want their site to crash, or they want to kind of throttle the way that people, consume those services. So this is another way of thinking about this particular solution. Once again, 100% open source, make it your own. In fact, if you bring a solution to your environment and you decide to make changes to it and you still want to get support, work with us. I know for a fact that many of our support engineers have been more than willing to still support changes to the source code, because those changes do not basically break the architecture, or they do not break the reason why the solution was built. So best case effort at that point, but we're still willing and more than happy to try and give you support. Single tenant, right? That's the key difference between AWS Solutions and AWS Services. AWS Solutions, you deploy it, you manage it, you upgrade it, you remove it. With services, AWS take care of all of that. And pay for what you use, AWS Solutions, they do not have any special licensing model. You just deploy it, and you are only responsible for the architecture behind the solution. So if it is a solution that uses ECS, or if it is a solution that uses EKS or whatever, you only have to pay for those services underneath the solution. If you want support and you have a support entitlement, you can go to the console and you can see that, hey, go and create a technical case where it says service. You have to just type solutions or look for the option solutions. And then under category, we highlight a couple of solutions in there. But if it is not the one that you want to get support for, you just type other solutions, or actually give you an option that says other solutions, and that's it. And then, a ticket or a case is going to get created, and it's going to go to the right team. More than 400 guidances. This is the one that Zoran, I'm not going to steal the thunder from you, so you will talk about it. But we have a few more for networking. We have for EKS, compute, storage, and so on. The approach of AWS Solutions is quality, not quantity. So if you go to one of these use cases and you find that there is only one or two solutions being recommended, well, that's why, because that's where we are, because those are the two solutions we recommend at this particular point. But the library, the catalog, it keeps growing. So if you're listening and you're an AWS employee, let us know if you have a particular idea that you would like to bring. And if you are a customer or a partner, reach out to your AWS, SA, account manager, or whoever, and say, hey, I'm having this problem, right? The solution doesn't exist. Can you build it for us? Hey, if we find a strong customer signal and we think that it's something that can help quite a few customers, we will be more than happy to do it.
Hey, Lewis, I wonder if you could have or create an email alias that's like AWS Solution Guidance Requests at Amazon.com or something, and say, hey, everyone, send me your requests. Do you guys have something like that? Or
it's funny you say that. We were actually talking about it just a few days ago. I think we already submitted the ticket to get that. And as soon as we have it, I'll let you know.
Okay. So in subsequent shows, we'll post that link up there, because I think that's super important. Like we'll have a bunch of customers out there thinking like, hey, this is great, but if only you guys supported, I don't know, VPC Lattice or something else. That might be a bad example, but I feel like when we talk to customers, we hear all of the things we haven't thought of, right? And if you hear it enough times, you're like, wow, there's actually something here, and we should probably do something about this.
No, absolutely. And you know what? One of our biggest challenges with AWS Solutions is the lack of awareness. So that's why I'm really happy we're doing this, because the more that we talk to customers, the better. And the funny thing is that we haven't talked to a customer yet that doesn't get surprised. Like, oh my God, I was building this project 3 months ago and we had to build it from scratch, and you just have it there. So that's why we're on this kind of a journey of doing evangelism and spreading the word, because every single customer, when they start using it, and the fact that they could be up and running in 10, 15, 20 minutes is amazing for them.
Yeah.
So
Makes
guys,
sense.
I'm not going to show you anymore, but maybe one thing that you guys want to try, and maybe Daniel or Zoran, when you guys go and do your screen sharing, actually, if you go to the AWS console today, there is a widget that says AWS Solutions. So we actually, pre-curate a small number of solutions that are usually the most popular. You can actually go and find those solutions from the Solutions Library, and everything's CloudFormation or CDK. If something you like, you deploy it, 15, 20, 30 minutes later, it's up and running, and you can start using it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I want to stop sharing now, but that's kind of the few slides I wanted to share with everybody.
All right, very cool. Well, so that's the Solutions Library. Should we keep moving on now, Daniel? If you want to take the reins and walk us through the automating network monitoring and alerting solution.
Sure, I'll try to take the reins. In 1 and 2.
What do we got here? Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, if you want to make your screen just a little bit like so, I think it will help make it a little bit easier to read.
No, that's expand or contract.
I can contract this way.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
How many? That's
Does it make that sound?
That way is better. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
How many solution architect does it take to contract?
Apparently 3 right now, but yeah.
Yeah. We can architect a solution, we just can't use them.
That's right. So, and by the way, that's anecdotal evidence. That's how we collect the materials for our use cases, right? From very practical, working backwards from customer needs. In this case, for all customers. Okay.
And
so,
Hiring's actually said he always uses the instance scheduler. Thanks for the great work. That's cool feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually one of our most popular solutions as well.
All right, there you go. Very cool. All right, Daniel, take it away.
Thank you. So your journey hopefully will start by visiting our solutions/guidance portal, right? So the base URL is AWSamazon.com/solutions. Then go to networking, right? And let's say we're looking for the monitoring and alerts, because that's our use case. We want to know what's going on in our multiple networking objects in our AWS accounts, right? So we click on that tab. Right, and remember that Louis mentioned different types of artifacts you can find in this portal. Right, it's not that we're responsible for all of them, but in general, you as a customer, you as a user, can find information about the core services. Of course, it's a CloudWatch, right? We know it's the fundamental log event manager, and in fact, it's used in this guidance as well. But you can get more information about it by clicking the link if you wish to, right? Of course, there are multiple partner solutions. Again, just to mention that because we're not going to cover that today, but I'm sure many people heard about Datadog or AppDynamics. They are general APM companies. They also provide the network monitoring, performance management solutions as well. Their products, their partners, and when you navigate to their tiles, you basically are taken to their site and you can research it further. But they are verified AWS partners, and so their products definitely work with our cloud, right? And of course, last but not least, that's what we are going to be talking about today. That's the guidance, right? Remember, Lewis mentioned that we have a solutions which is essentially a product, right? It has a development lifecycle, it has support mechanism. We treat it essentially as a deliverable product that integrates multiple services. Guidance is pretty much the same, except it's more of the self-driven and it has lesson support. It's pretty much open source for all of us, for the users, for people on this call to try, right? So what happens when we land on this page, right? So we see, okay, so this is what the guidance is for, automated network and monitoring and alerting on AWS. And by the way, you don't have to be a networking expert. I'm most certainly am not networking expert to get a feeling what is this guidance going to do for you, right? If you're very technical, if you're don't care about the architecture and you just want to jump to the good stuff, right? There's a link. You can jump to implementation guide and sample code, right? That's what basically included in the guidance package. Same applies for solutions, by the way, too. This is sort of standard assets that users can find. But if you're, if say you want to convince your, chief architect, why is this making sense to onboard, or you just want to review it on a high level, here's the information you can find here on this page, right? You can find the general description. In this case, it shows how to automate setup of dashboards for monitoring and alerting multiple network resources. And as we hopefully see, it's not just network resources, but that's the focus for today. Then we'll have more focused architecture diagrams. You can review each of them, right? You can zoom in, by the way, if you want to, right? You can go through each stage. So this one basically describes how the automation, how the deployment happens, right? It walks us through the, it basically give us the basis, the foundational basis. That's the AWS Resource Group and Tagging API. And the CloudWatch tells us how we can use the resource collector, which is the code that's delivered with this guidance, to generate configuration file, and it will fetch the resources matching those specified in the file based on the tagging API. It's going to persist it in JSON file, and we as users, that's us, will initiate Cloud Development Kit CDK commands to deploy this, to generate CloudFormation, which I'm sure most people on the call are familiar with. It's our infrastructure as a code automation that deploys multiple integrated resources into AWS accounts. So the reason I'm saying this because at the end of the call we're going to test everybody's knowledge. No, that's that's definitely not the case.
Multi-choice questions. This is on
right.
the networking specialty exam, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. If you don't remember, you don't pass. But again, on a little bit more serious note, any product, right, should have its architecture, and many people are visual, right? If you just list these services and say, hey, you deploy such and such and such, then talk to each other. Okay, some people may jump into the code and reverse engineer it and deduct all that, but for other people, I think, including myself, visual representation is very helpful, right? And so on this, the reason we separated this into tabs, which is not the case for other architectures, but this one we just specifically wanted to separate the basic deployment configuration process we just went through from generating and deployment of event forwarder stack, which is required because this is another great advantage of this guidance, and I'm sure Zoran will also emphasize that it can work with multiple accounts, right? You can have a source accounts where your monitor resources reside, and they're tagged and data is originating from, but you can have your sort of single pane of glass, if you will, monitoring account where these events through the event bus architecture will be sent, processed, persisted in a database, and then routed in the consumable form to the CloudWatch dashboards, right? And then we have this part of architecture that emphasizes how the alarm is triggered, right? So alarm is something that, certain metric, right, certain parameter that expected to be within certain limits usually goes, outside of these limits, right? So basically, there's a breach of contract, if you will, and that's when alarm is generated and it's forwarded to event bridge, which is our event handling um, service, right, from default bus in a service account to the central bus, to the custom bus in the sort of centralized monitoring account. Again, it will be processed by Lambda functions and persisted in the DynamoDB and ultimately delivered to the user interface dashboards, which is what we as users will see. So all of that, again, of course, is not for memorization. It's for giving you guys a picture of what the code will do, right? So again, we will and can and will jump into implementation in a second. But I wanted to spend just a minute or two on the well-architected pillars, right? I'm sure if you work with AWS, services, you probably heard about our well-architected framework, right? And this is basically a set of best practices for building and deployment of your applications, solutions in AWS Cloud, right? And the pillars to that, you can see here. We can see performance efficiency, security, cost optimization, sustainability, reliability, right? So for each of these pillars, again, this information may be helpful for your management, may be helpful for perhaps your customers that you envision that will consume this, but it's information that nonetheless is important because we emphasize for each of the pillars what services used in this guidance implemented, right? For example, for operational excellence, we emphasize CloudWatch, Lambda, DynamoDB, and System Manager Parameter Store. It's used for automating deployment and management, right? So we consider these services are contributing into operational excellence, and we explain why. If we want to drill down, we can read the operational excellence white paper and understand more of it. So this is sort of information that around the guidance package, right? Now, if we want to jump into implementation, we click the implementation guide link, right? And we land here on this implementation guide page.
Hey, one quick question, Daniel. We got it in. I just want to make sure it's addressed by Ken. He was asking about Terraform as opposed to CloudFormation, and I linked a converter that I've known customers use. Can you just color a little reason why this is always in CloudFormation versus something like Terraform?
It's not always. I guess Zoran will be best positioned to answer that question. In overall across the different guidances, the Terraform is used, for example, for other automation, right? We use it interchangeably.
Sure.
In the container world, in the EKS world, which is more closer to my Focus Terraform is used very extensively. This is no
Okay.
hard and fast rule against one or another. It's just I believe it was more feasible for this automation, if that's helpful.
I can also add to it. Actually, it's the way. So CDK is basically powered by a programming language, which gives you additional capabilities that I don't think Terraform has, where you can iterate and do for loops and do quite advanced comparisons and at least from the standpoint it felt at the moment that was I needed that iterative possibility of programming language to be able to do that, and we can dive a little bit deeper into that, why and how that looks like.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
But to summarize, we use both pretty much equally. It kind of depends on the focus of the guidance and also preference of the builder. So, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yep. So this is Louis mentioned. This is essentially a product. Product has user manual. Well, this is a user manual, right? Implementation guide. Again, this is what is really impressive for me and hopefully impressive for you. Even though we're talking about networking today, this is our routing loop. This is networking focus. There are multiple services, including our EC2 compute, right? Including Aurora database service, including DynamoDB, NoSQL database, including others that can be monitored pretty much the same way, right? And this is really impressive because this guidance can be reused for that purposes. So it's really covering a broad set of use cases that monitoring use cases you can encounter. We're not going to go through architecture overview again. You can find it. It's pretty much reproduces the same as we saw on the landing page. There is a list of core services that's used here, which is CloudWatch Alarms, Event Bridge for routing and forwarding events, Lambda. This is our serverless service that handles that event, process, fetches information, and stores and visualizes alarms. And DynamoDB is a persistence layer. This is for storage of alarm information. You can find again this detailed steps description. I'm not going to go for them. Actually, let me switch to another headset because I get a warning that this one is low. Just give me 1 second.
Hey, one quick comment that one thing we can do is, if there is a guidance that we see hundreds or thousands of customers using it and asking for more and more and more, we can actually upgrade that guidance into becoming a full-blown supported solution. And also the other way around, if at some point we develop this particular solution because the customer demand was extremely high, but technology evolved, and that maybe 5 years from now or 2 years from now, maybe that solution doesn't have that demand anymore. We could also like downgrade back into a guidance, so we can release software development engineers, people to work on other stuff, and we still keep it in the solution library because again, some people still might be able to use it, but we can kind of play with elevate the solutions into the right level based on how many customers and the demand for them.
Correct. Yep. Can you guys hear me still in this new headset? Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
We can. I don't know if maybe you want to just check your audio input and make sure it's using your new headset, because you sound like you're in a big lobby of a building somewhere, or a museum, maybe the Louvre.
I am not in any of these places, but funny that you mention it. No, it's showing my headset. So
okay, it's fine. I think it's
just
fine. It'll work. We can hear you. It'll work. Yep.
Okay. I apologize for that. So here we have a list of services using this guidance. So we have full transparency of what services will get deployed. CloudFormation, that's automation, that's infrastructure as a code. We have CloudWatch, that's our monitoring, event handling, service, the Event Bridge, Lambda, and DynamoDB, right? Then we have a lot of notes about planning your deployment. So what you should expect, right? There is some detailed information about that, changing state and refreshing, etc. So you can find all this information here. And last but not least, in planning section, right, you probably will be interested how much it's going to cost you, right? What's your bill going to be? And we provide this information for you as well. So this is a sample. If you get this guidance deployed in your US East region in the United States, this is approximately how much it's going to be costing you based on these assumptions, right, or dimensions as we call them. There's for one dashboard for about 1 gigabyte metric data storage a month and about 1 million writes per month with 2 million reads. Lambda function to handle the event bridge. This is going to cost you about $16 per month, right? Of course, if the scale of your monitoring of number of dashboards will be higher, this will change, but it will give you, ballpark estimate how much it's going to cost you, right? This is obviously in a SaaS model, it's important, right? Because that's actually what we're going to pay for, not for the code, right? As Luis mentioned, the code is free, but for the services that's going to be deployed there. So next section,
Hey Daniel, we got a question here from Dominic. The $15 per month, is that only for monitoring one account or one source account, or
no, that's the 10,000 alarms, each triggering 10 times a month, and it doesn't matter how many monitoring accounts you have. Source accounts. So one monitoring account and a number
as
of
many source accounts as you want. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love how Lambda is the big spender there out of everything else.
Well, it's
I mean, it's $7, but
yeah, it's over 6,000 counted requests per month with that estimated duration, that much memory consumed, etc. It's we have to process events, right? So that's gonna consume.
I just can't help fighting my Amazon frugality leadership principle. When I see a higher number than other things, I'm like, why? How can we get this cheaper? But no, it's fine.
Yeah,
let's keep going.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the questions, by the way. Security, last but not least, of course, we all care about that. Our customers care about that. So we spend time talking about security. Generally, we'll follow the shared responsibility model. We secure the infrastructure that the guidance runs on, and you secure the application level aspects of that. Obviously, the kind of data that's getting monitored, that's your responsibility, right? And we have availability of what regions this guidance available at. So we have a list, so you can preview whether you'll be able to deploy it in your region or not. And at this point, we come into the deployment, and unless there are other questions, I'd like to hand it over to Zoran. But again, the purpose of this whole page is essentially an implementation guide that should answer most, if not all, of the questions that implementers, the hands-on architects would have, and just give you step-by-step instructions of how to get this guidance deployed.
Okay, very cool.
When
Jamie's just saying in the chat that the costs are approximate, so it depends on your deployment. So as always, there's a disclaimer there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just got to make sure that not everybody is the same.
It also depends on the region, et cetera, et cetera. But we specifically say it's a ballpark, right? So you will see it's going to be $16, not $16,000, right? So that's sufficient to know.
And by the way, you will see that with every of our solutions. We always try to do that kind of cost projection. So you have an idea of like, hey, if I deploy this is how much it's going to cost based on this number of whatever does the solution. So again, it's just a way to give customers this idea of like, hey, if you deploy this under this scenario, this is an approximate. But again, the mileage may vary based on how you use it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, cool. Thank you, Daniel. And Lewis as well. Let's dig into your stuff here, Zoran. What are we sharing here?
So I'm sharing my account with a couple of dashboards that I have there, and I was planning to have you on board and watch me deploy that in this particular accounts. So what the expectation is that we're going to create some dashboards. Now, I do have a bunch of resources in this particular accounts. In this particular account, that are already tagged with a specific tag key and couple of values. So, and the account is prepared to actually demonstrate this. So, what we're going to do is simplest terms we could use this particular cloud shell to deploy it. And let me just get the GitHub link. So the code is on GitHub, and so we can simply use Git to clone it. And now we have
all the steps are documented in the page that we just came from. So this is it's all captured. So
exactly. So a couple of things before we can actually deploy this. We need to make sure that we get
hey, Zoran,
the
one thing, could you just Control++, just make the font a tiny bit bigger?
Oh yeah. Oh, let me try
work?
to do that in this. Let me just see if this works. In Cloud Shell, I'm not sure. I could.
Oh, you could also just make the screen a little bit smaller. Just resize it, and it should automatically adjust on the stream. Yeah, perfect.
Like
yeah,
this.
That's better. Yep.
Yeah, it'll do like this.
Excellent.
All right. Okay. So now we have basically we have the source code. So first, what we want to do is to configure the project. So there are a couple of things that I want to point out here. The most important part here is the tag key that we will be looking for, and the tag values that I used for this particular for my resources. So obviously some resources. So for example, if you have, let's say that you have a cost center and have resources where they have different numbers as values, you could include multiple cost centers with adding values in this array here. And next important thing is to specify the region where your resources are residing. I won't go too much into detail regarding the other things. Documentation covers that in more detail. However, one thing
Zoran,
that I just
do you want to just highlight the font for us? The colors are a little bit dark. I mean, it could just be me and my poor eyesight. But
no, my eyesight's just as poor, and I'm wearing glasses.
I didn't get better with me marking this.
Oh, it didn't do much for us. Huh?
It actually got worse here.
Yeah. I did the opposite. The one we could read, now we cannot, and the red that we couldn't, now we can.
All right, I'll just kind of point out a couple of things. So there are two, as Daniel mentioned as well, there are two distinct features of this. So one is generating these metric dashboards. And the other feature is cross-region alarm dashboard. The metric dashboards are that's enabled from the start. If you would like to run alarm dashboard, one thing that is required is to supply organization ID here and flip this this toggle enabled to true to actually deploy both. Similarly, you can disable metric dashboard if alarm dashboard is the only one feature that you want to use. So let's. I think I actually prepared a config file that is actually that we are going to use. Just double check. Yeah, I added some additional tag values, and also I want to call the base name routing, the routing loop, basically. And the base name is actually being used as a prefix for the stack, CloudFormation stack that it generates. And because I also wanted the ability to, let's say that you have two applications in the same account, and you want to use this project to deploy two different sets of dashboards, what you can do is simply reconfigure this and use a different base name, and it won't conflict with the CloudFormation template name and different IDs that are resource IDs that are created. So, all right, so I think we are good to go. Now that it's configured, we need to collect all the resources in this account. So we go into data. And kick off our resource collector. So resource collector, we read this config file and start fetching all the resources that have been tagged. And as you can see, there's a bunch of them. Again, in this particular account, I'm not using, there is not much load on these resources. So some of the metric widgets may be empty in terms of metrics, but that's just because they're not being used for, there's not much load generated on that. So now that we have, I'm just going to show you.
Hey, Zoran, we've just got a question from Dominic around multi-tenant separation inside one or multiple accounts. Can we use this solution for this, or should we deploy one solution per tenant?
What do you mean by tenant in this particular case? So in what aspect?
Probably,
I would assume, and Dominic, correct me if I'm wrong, but can we pull information from, say, multiple accounts with this one solution here, or do we have to run this solution, or should we run the solution within each of the accounts and then tally them up ourselves?
Oh, okay. Well, so this doesn't have to be ran. So you can run this basically from your laptop, which means technically that you just, as long as you authenticate with the account that you want to deploy this to, you just need authenticate your shell, and you get the temporary credentials, and you just execute the script and deploy the CloudFormation template. Is that?
And so is this like one account at a time, or can we do like multiple accounts in one run?
At the moment, there is no support for the dashboards, the metric dashboards. We are working on the multi-account support.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can and the multi-account support is planned to be that you're gonna have dashboards deployed in one account, but it will use the multi-account CloudWatch native multi-account support to display these dashboards. That's the plan.
And so Zoran, in the Yolan's calling out that there's an org ID in the config file, and does that refer to a multi-tenant deployment, or is that something that you
no,
guys
exactly. So the org ID in config file, it refers to basically the resource policy that we put on the event bridge, the custom event bridge, to kind of control who is allowed to send events to that custom event bridge, and that's only used for alarm dashboard.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's keep rolling.
Okay. So I will do a CDK synth to generate. This is not a necessary step. I could just go on with deploy right away. So CDK synth will synthesize the CloudFormation template, and this is something that you can use to inspect the CloudFormation template. Now, obviously, with a lot of resources, it will be a lot of information there. So it might not, and it will output a predicted cost for the number of dashboards that is being created and alarms. So that's the calculation. So basically, it's a JSON file that is a CloudFormation template.
Very
so
human,
I will
anyway.
go on. Oh, I added a T there. Right. So so this will generate it again and deploy it.
Now, depending on how many resources you have, as you mentioned, it determines how long it will take to deploy. Is there any estimations, like what you can say is like, hey, if you have X amount of resources, it's about this long, or is it just up to the environment?
Yeah, well, so I think that I think the actual deployment of the dashboards is fairly simple. It just kind of deploys a set of alarms and deploys the dashboard definitions, basically. So there is not a bunch of things to deploy. I think the most time that is used is if you have a lot of resources. So the output from the resource collector, that file can become quite large, and it will consume a significant amount of memory to parse that. And so the parsing part, what happens is the first thing that happens is that I'm making a request to resource groups and tagging API to list all resources that contain these tags. So a return of that is a list of resources, which is basically an ARN, and they come in a unsorted order. Maybe there is an order by which resource got tagged latest, but for when you think about the designing a set of dashboards, you don't want to have random resources of different types being added in one single dashboard. So before I generate any widgets through CDK, I'm sorting this in by region and then by service. And then in some cases, I'm making an exception to create a separate dashboard, and some services are getting put in a main dashboard, and so on. And so that's the reason why these. Yeah, and I forgot to mention the most important part is to be in order to be able to design meaningful widgets for every single resource. An ARN is not enough information. So, for example, if it's an API gateway, you might get the ID at the end of the ARN, and at some point you will want to know whether this is a HTTP or WebSocket API gateway, as opposed to REST API type of API gateway. And then it also it can be a tricky to see like what are the actual metrics that you want to put there. So therefore, I'm also using follow-up API calls if I detect that, for example, this is API gateway, I can do a follow-up request to the specific service API to get more information. So which I'm using when I'm generating the dashboards. So I'm just going to continue just to show how this looks like. So we'll go back to CloudWatch and dashboards. So now suddenly, I hope you see this. Now we have these the routing loop dashboards that that kind of emerged. So let me start with the main dashboard. So again, this is a list of alarms that we start. This is a main dashboard. So in a way, services will be added here, with exception of some other, like for example, Lambda and EC2 will generate a separate dashboards and networking dashboard, and also edge dashboard that are at the moment being separated. Going forward, I'm not sure whether more per service and dashboards will be, or per service family dashboard will be separated, and it all depends on customer requests and what we can what we will be prioritizing. Right, so I'm just going to show the way that this works now. Let me see if I can find any metrics, so we can. Yeah, maybe.
Hey, Zoran, and maybe just to clarify for the audience as well. I remember we started by telling them that we're using the tagging API. That's kind of where we decide where we are going to be getting these metrics. Are there any specifics how users should tag their resources? Because essentially it's a key value pairs, right? Any specific best practices for tagging that they should use to sort of segregate what they want to monitor from what not, or
yeah. So that's a good question. Now, I mean, the reason why I chose tagging as one of the mechanisms to the scope or kind of scope out an application is that I'm seeing that the customers are already doing so via either cost center tags or specific team tags, or but there is no rule. I mean, as long as you use a tag key and list of values or just single value, that's the mechanism that you can use to kind of gather around an application. Now, it's when you start designing automation around dashboards, there's a lot of different the different things you need to think about, like such as scalability, like how many resources can you put on a single dashboard and when should you break it out. So splitting, let's say that we create a new dashboard for all resources that are of EC2, a new dashboard for Lambda, new dashboard for S3, and for kind of split them out by the service, you might end up in a bunch of dashboards that contain a couple of resources. That's not very convenient if you have small number of resources in one single account. But then on the other hand, let's say that you have hundreds and hundreds of EC2 instances that are part of a larger fleet of they're part larger fleet that are part of one single application, then it becomes a problem. So so there are a couple of functions, or there's a feature that I can actually show you how that looks like. So let me just go here. So you see that we have routing loop Lambda dashboard and dashboard 2022. This is a feature that is using a function that is group by in the configuration file. So I don't want to go too much into detail about that. It's just that feature exists, which will make, for example, this particular Lambda to break out in a new on a new dashboard in a sense. So let's have a look at the networking dashboard for now. I will again So this is basically, we're looking at networking dashboards. So transit gateways here. So right now you can see that I do have a text widget that gives me additional context about this particular transit gateway. So for example, you can see that it contains 2 attachments. One is, it contains also a peer. This is something that I get when I do an additional API request to Transit Gateway API. Once I've identified that in this tagged list there is a Transit Gateway, so I can create a link to on which you can click, and it takes you to that particular Transit Gateway. Then what I'm building afterwards is a list of widget sets that each represent one attachment, so you can dive deeper into details for each of the attachments. Also, in this particular case, we have not gateways here with a list of widgets there. Matt, can I share another screen with some bit more, which is deployed in another account that contains.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Please do. Actually, while you're bringing up your next screen, I just want to share my favorite dashboard. And I don't know if we like CloudWatch isn't quite the same. This is the Simple Beer service. I don't know if you folks have ever seen this, but some AWS folks basically built some automation into, or some reporting into some kegerators in AWS offices. But I just wanted to call that out. I don't think Simple Beer service gets enough love. Okay. Anyways, Oren,
Maybe
is this
Yeah,
your
let me see if
new?
the size is.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
maybe we need to productize that and convert it into a solution.
I think we
Yeah, there you
absolutely
go.
should do that.
I just want to know why there's
Trying.
more beer consumed in New York than in San Francisco.
That's
You
a
think
really
it'd
good
be better?
question.
Well, San Francisco has less than 1 million people. New York is what, like, pushing 8 or more than
Yeah.
that. So definitely.
Could be. But I don't think all 1 million people are drinking from that keg.
Right. So we are looking now into a network dashboard that is in another account. This is actually Andy's account, so we was kind to allow me access to it to deploy, because he's also running Direct Connect in this, which helped me implement that. So and as you can see, we have the same principle here. There are a couple of NAT gateways here, and you can see metrics right here. I limited one period of 1 hour that these NAT gateways don't exist in this account, but I wanted to still, for the sake of it, show you that that how that looks like with metrics in. So transit gateway, same here. Attachments has 2 and 1 peer, and you can actually see which this particular attachment is. You can see this is peering. You can click on it, and it takes you to that page where this attachment, you can monitor it closer or have a look at it on the configuration. This particular attachment is Direct Connect Gateway. Then we have another transit gateway coming up. So I'm grouping. So when we start with transit gateways, I'm trying to group all the resources of the same type into a flow here. And you can see again here, this is a VPC type. You can click on it, gets you to the VPC, and so on. There's support for network firewalls. One thing that I also can get from a API request about this particular network firewall when I'm doing resource collection is to see what VPC is it has, and I can create those widgets that wouldn't necessarily be there unless you hunt it, or go into different namespace, CloudWatch namespace, to actually put them on the widget. So all of this is manually created, and even so, these VPCs, the network firewall can be deployed in 2 availability zones or 3 availability zones. So if this was deployed in 3, then we would have 6 widgets here that are aligning in a row. And this is direct connect. So we have this particular WIF with metrics here that is also automatically detected. This particular one is a direct connection, and this is actually mocked because we don't have the dedicated connection in our internal accounts. So I had to mock it. So this particular one is not the real one.
We should give you guys access to the Direct Connect lab in EMEA. That might be interesting.
Yeah, but
get some.
Aren't there only hosted? That's hosted. Oh, you mean directly to that account?
Yeah. Well, you can share this from another Direct Connect account with a physical connection, so that would be pretty easy. The only downside would be I don't think there's much traffic going over that thing. I think it's just you can configure and do everything there, but there's no traffic generator as far as I'm aware. So.
Right. And that's usually when you're building dashboards, generating traffic for all kinds of services becomes a bit of an issue, because generating a lot of traffic and keeping that traffic flowing all the time to get and keep a bunch of metrics, it becomes also non-frugal in the sense. So
well, I notice you folks have some time slices where someone's been sending some traffic, and that makes for a good graph. But then if you don't want to do that all the time, right? Because then you're just contributing to a whole bunch of traffic. It's pretty easy to spin up a couple of instances and send multiple tens of gigabits of traffic, right? So
you could also, I was just thinking, use this to keep us honest, right? So if you're thinking about a transit gateway where we charge 2 cents per gig out, any type of discounts or anything aside, you can actually map that using these graphs to see how much you have going out of the transit gateway, and then compare it to your costing. So that's actually, I was just thinking that's pretty powerful to kind of double prove our charging is correct.
I would love to see, like, I noticed you had NAT Gateway there, and there's always some questions out there around how much am I spending on NAT Gateway data transfer? Right. If there was a dollar counter there that said for the month how many dollars you spent on egress, like I wonder if that's possible.
I mean, you could do whatever with math expressions. So I guess you could try. Yeah, let me try that. Not now, but I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because how many times it matter? We always asked, what's my biggest talker? How much am I spending on particular whatever? Like, can you help me break down what my bandwidth charges are and where those are? And this is actually a good example of that kind of being broken out. Yeah. And as you mentioned, if you just did the math a little bit, or if we had a solution for that, it would be pretty interesting to see, like, okay, here is what your traffic is, and this is the estimated spend or cost of what that traffic was. And then you can then go ahead and compare it, and that would allow a lot of folks to take this to their leadership and say, hey, maybe we should not do XYZ, or we're doing pretty good. Stop blaming us for your spend.
We only spent $27. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's only $27.
Yeah. And okay, so I want to show one more thing. Let me just select the appropriate window to show that to. Right, and this is the second feature. So these were the metric dashboards. Now I want to show also. Now I just want to select the right one. I'll wait. Oh, I think this could be the one. Yeah,
Just a quick
that's
comment
fine.
from Dominic, not a question, but thanks for the feedback, Dominic. So he's saying it's a really great solution. He's asked many times here about it, automation for monitoring. We don't talk enough about monitoring and automation on the routing loop, because you'll find a lot of the networking folks like myself are traditional, CLI, Cisco configuration, BGP junkies, as opposed to CI/DI or pipeline automation folks or application folks. So, but yeah, there's some great kudos here.
As an application folk you just mentioned, I am wholeheartedly will be number one consumer of that solution, because unlike you guys, I'm not a black belt in networking, but I want to see the big picture. And there's some drops or abnormalities. I think this is as Dominic also highlighted, this is definitely a quick way to get the root cause, which is we're all essentially need to do. So a little bit of putting ourselves in the back.
And I think that's an interesting perspective too. Like you're coming at it from an application perspective, saying, "Hey, I want to get visibility to networking because networking is important." If I'm coming at it, I'm saying, "Hey, I understand the infrastructure," and then maybe myself as a network engineering person in a company where there are application folks, maybe I'm just not giving the right data to those application folks, because I'm like, "Hey, I jumped into the VPC and the routing looks good, and I checked BGP for the direct connect, and we're all good to go," right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think this is a great kind of middle ground solution. But
or even thinking, if you think about it, when you're looking at all those graphs throughout all the different solutions that you have, you can see if there's a blip in traffic or if there's a dip. And you can see that within only some of your constructs, but not all the rest of the constructs. You can say, hey, between these two pieces, something could be the issue. It could be an application that the traffic is running through, or it could be just the absolute reverse, right? Where you can see like a big bump and some other things that you could help point you along the way to where your problem lies.
Yeah. And it's all about correlation. You look at the different metrics from different resources and trying to correlate the data and make sense out of it. And it is a challenging situation when you start designing these. And so it goes a lot of time thinking about where to put them, how big should they be, how dense should it be, how do you scale? And speaking of scale, I think that what you're actually seeing right now on the screen is the alarm dashboard. So this came from a customer request. A customer asked me, "Hey, I want to see if anything is broken in my whole of my work." And I went, "Well, right, but what does that mean? Like central alarm dashboard?" And
well, Zoran, we do need you to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. Let me do that.
Maybe. Oh, this one you might be able to do a Control plus or something, because you're in a browser.
Yeah. Let me see if I can just resize the window to make it nicer. Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, you want to go? You want to go sideways as well?
Yeah, like that.
That's getting a little better.
And then let me see. Yeah, I think I can make it bigger, right?
Okay, I think that's getting pretty good. Yep.
Yeah, okay. I mean, reading what's there. So the whole. So this is basically, and forgive me, I'm not the best designer in the world. The point here is just to kind of put some alarms on a single dashboard. Now, the reason why it looks a little bit different than you're used to, this is powered by two custom widgets, basically CloudWatch custom widgets. So a custom widget in CloudWatch is basically executing a Lambda function whenever it refreshes. So and this is the part where when alarm changes state, goes from a green or okay to alarm state, it will emit an event. So CloudWatch alarm state change event, and that event can be parsed by rule and forwarded to a central event bridge, which in this case happens. So in that event bridge, in this event that is in a central custom event bridge, we can use to trigger a Lambda function to parse it, and even assume role in the originating account and look some things up. in this particular case, it will look up tags on the alarm. And if it's an EC2 instance, and this was a specific request from this particular customer, to actually look up tags on the EC2 instance as well. And so the tags are being used in this case that you can have an alarm and set a priority tag on it to be critical, medium, or low, and they will visualize differently on this particular dashboard. So I am gonna just go about and trigger a bunch of alarms, and so trigger a bunch of alarms. So I'm using set alarm state API call, and I have scripted basically a script that will go into my account to a list of all alarms and just trigger them, flip them into alarm state. And after a while, when these alarms get more data and reevaluate, they will go back into green mode. So what you will see is that I'm getting just a bunch of alarms coming on this dashboard and then disappearing after a while. So, and I'm going to trigger from 3 different accounts. Now, the most of them are in, you're going to notice that, and this is where I actually triggered them. So there is alarms are actually coming in right now. So
you basically just pulled out the Cat5 cable on a couple of servers, and now we're seeing some problems.
Yeah, exactly. So, so one can also, I don't know, click on a button here and learn a little bit more about the alarm specifically, and get some. So we also, I forgot one thing. The Lambda also does check for each of the accounts. It check the operations contact if it exists, and it will store that in the DynamoDB with this particular. So you can, if you have like a central team that is monitoring this and wants to reach out to someone to talk to, then you can get that information from the alarm itself.
So the big question is, we have 3 minutes left on the show here today. Are you able to remediate the issue and recover in the next 3 minutes?
Oh yeah, it will recover automatically. So these will disappear one by one. And I just want to also do, so there is also, this is also, so just to show you, there is a big list.
Sounds like someone's pager going off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not mine.
What did you do?
I hope it's not the alarm in the office right now. It's late right now in Sweden. So yeah, you can actually do some magic here. For example, there is it supports pagination. Now, obviously, this is a CloudWatch dashboard, so I put it to refresh every 10 seconds. So some of the things you can do, you can just click on alarm here, and it will filter for the alarm status. You can also filter by account or by region by clicking here, and you release the filter just by clicking here. And I think if we are going to think about the time to close, then I think I will stop for now.
Yeah, no, this is cool. And look at that. I mean, I don't see any major red alarms. The ones that were coming in, they've kind of disappeared. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, very cool.
Mischief managed.
Yeah. I don't know if you folks ever have any meetings with some of our operational folks. I feel really bad when there's like 5 guys in a meeting or 5 people in a meeting, and all of their pages go off at the same time, and they just leave the room. And
yeah, you always see that thing on Zoom or on Chime. They go, "You gotta go."
Yep. I am a TAM, so I literally have to experience that from time to time. So
yeah.
I'm so glad I don't carry a pager anymore. But yeah.
Sorry, that was my pager.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Well, look, just a couple of closing statements because we're at time. Look, I think firstly, the AWS Solutions Library, I think that there's an amazing amount of work there, and I wasn't aware of that. So definitely check that out. We'll post a link in the chat again. So thanks for the overview of that one, Lewis and Daniel. Really, really amazing work there. I'd love to see that email address for feedback for new solutions in the future. I think that's a really cool way to get customer feedback. And Zoran, the demo today, hey, everything worked, man. Like that's a plus.
Yeah, nothing broke.
Very cool. And I love dashboards too. So I have this dream of an automated dashboard thing. Maybe I'll talk to you about it offline, and maybe we can talk about it on a future session. But no, very, very, very cool stuff. Jamie, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, this, again, it brings a little bit more visibility. Sometimes we get a little confused or not confused, but we get a little bit into the weeds where we can speak our same language, networking nerds, and I can, Matt and I talk back and forth, but other folks maybe need to see the graph or to actually see the impact as it correlates to other things. And this is a great way to do that.
Yeah, no, very cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.